Good morning. This is the time and place noticed for a hearing in 3 dockets, Commission docket numbers 19-057-04 through -06. My name is Michael Hammer, and I am the Commission's designated presiding officer for this hearing. Let's go ahead and take appearances, please.
This is Jennifer. I'm Jennifer Clark. I'm counsel for the company, and I have with me Jessica Ibsen. She will be the company's witness on the pass-through docket. That's 19-057-04. And I also have with me Mr. Austin Summers, who will be the witness for the company on the other 2 dockets.
Thank you.
Good morning. Patricia E. Schmid with the Attorney General's Office representing the Division of Public Utilities. With me as the division's witness is Douglas Wheelwright. Douglas D.
All right. I think it probably makes sense, if there's no objection, to have Ms. Clark call both of her witnesses on direct before we proceed to Ms. Schmidt. Are there any other preliminaries before we get started?
There are not.
All right. The witnesses can remain seated if you're comfortable with that.
And the company will call both Jessica Ibsen and Austin Summers in that order.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Clark.
Would we like to swear them in?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So we're Ms. Ibsen first. Ms. Ibsen, do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, Ms. Ibsen, would you please state your full name and business address for the record?
My name is Jessica Ibsen. My address is 333 South State Street, Salt Lake City, Utah.
And what position do you hold with the company?
I am a Regulatory Analyst 3.
And was the application in docket number 19057-04 and the accompanying exhibits, DEU Exhibit 1.1 through 1.11, were all of those things prepared by you or under your direction?
Yes.
And do you have any corrections to any of those?
No.
And do you adopt the contents of those documents here today as your testimony?
Yes.
The company would move for the admission of the application and the accompanying exhibits.
They're admitted.
Thank you. Would you please summarize the company's position in this application?
Yes. In pass-through docket number 19-057-04, Dominion Energy Utah respectfully asks the Utah Public Service Commission for approval of $464,740,593 in Utah gas cost coverage. This represents an overall increase of $13,227,000. The components of this increase are first an increase of $17,418,000 in commodity costs, and second a decrease of $4,191,000 in supplier non-gas costs. This request includes an amortization of the commodity portion of the actual January 2019 under-collected 191 balance of $7,691,292 by a 6.922 cent per decatherm debit surcharge. The company is also requesting an amortization of the under-collected SNG costs. The SNG balance is slightly under-collected from forecasted expected levels at the end of March by $2,440,017, which leads to a debit amortization. The charges are shown on Exhibit 1.6, page 3. The cost of purchased gas was developed using forecasted gas prices from both Pyra Energy Group and Cambridge Energy Research Associates. If this application is approved, a typical Utah GS customer using 80 decatherms would see an increase of $9.58, or a total annual increase of about 1.58%. These rates are just, reasonable, and in the public interest. Therefore, we request the rates proposed in commodity and SNG be allowed to go into effect on an interim basis on April 1st, 2019.
And the company has no further questions for Ms. Ibsen.
Ms. Schmidt?
No questions.
And I don't have any. Thank you, Ms. Ibsen.
Thank you.
Thank you. The company would call Mr. Austin Summers to speak to docket number 19-057-05, which is the Transportation Imbalance Charge Adjustment docket.
Mr. Summers, do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
could you please state your full name and business address for the record?
Yes, it is Austin Summers, and my business address is 333 South State Street in Salt Lake City, Utah.
And what position do you hold with the company?
I'm the manager of regulation.
And did you prepare or oversee the preparation of the application and accompanying exhibits 1.1 through 1.3 in this docket?
Yes.
And do you have any corrections to any of those documents?
I have, sorry, are we just working on
Just the transportation
the 05?
imbalance charge,
So I
yes.
have no changes to that one.
And do you adopt the contents of those documents as your testimony today?
Yes.
The company would move for the admission of the application in docket number 19057-05 and the accompanying exhibits.
They're admitted.
Thank you. Mr. Summers, will you please summarize for the court or the commission the company's request for relief in this docket?
Yes, in docket number 19-057-05, Dominion Energy Utah seeks to update the daily transportation imbalance charge using the historical data for the 12 months ended January 31st, 2019. Based on this historical data, the company is proposing to increase the rate slightly from 8.122 cents to 8.323 cents per decatherm. The company believes that this rate increase is just, reasonable, and in the public interest, and therefore the company requests that the rates be approved on an interim basis with an effective date of April 1st of 2019, and that concludes my summary.
The company has no further questions for Mr. Summers. He's available for other questioning.
Ms. Schmidt?
No questions?
And I don't have any. Thank you.
Finally, the company would call Mr. Summers once again to testify to docket number 19-057-06.
All right, Mr. Summers, you're still under oath.
Thank you.
Mr. Summers, I think we know who you are and what you do for the company, so I will ask you, did you prepare or oversee the preparation of the application and accompanying exhibits 1.1 through 1.4 in docket number 19057-06?
Yes.
And do you have any corrections to any of those docket
I do have
documents?
I have one minor correction. It's on an exhibit. It's on exhibit 1.2. Give everybody just a second to turn there. While you're turning to that, I'll point out that this doesn't have any effect on the rates that are calculated or anything that's in the application. It's just it's part of a footnote of sorts. So if you're on exhibit 1.2, which is calculation of proposed CET rates, under that first section, it looks like there's a footnote that reads the proposed rates were calculated by allocating the total CET account balance of, and it says 9,153,146.02. That number was a carryover from the prior CET application, so that number should read $2,866,545.19. Like I said, that doesn't have any effect on any of the calculations anywhere in the application or the rates that are proposed. It's just a clarification on that footnote.
Mr. Summers, with that correction, would you adopt the application and accompanying exhibits as your testimony today?
Yes.
The company moves for the admission of the application in docket 19057-06 and the accompanying exhibits.
They're admitted.
Thank you. Mr. Summers, can you please summarize the relief the company seeks in this docket?
Yes. In this docket, the company is requesting to amortize the Conservation Enabling Tariff balancing account. The amortization was adjusted last fall when the account was about $9 million over collected. Most of that $9 million has been returned to customers during the heavy use winter months, so the rates can now be adjusted. The company proposes to increase the amortization rate to eliminate the remaining over-collected balance of $2,866,545. This credit amortization is simply a reduction in the amount being given back to customers and will result in an annual increase of $5.11 for a typical customer, or about a 0.84% increase. These proposed rates are just, reasonable, and in the public interest, and therefore the company requests that the rates be approved with rates going into effect on November 1st, 2018.
The company has no further questions for Mr.
2019, I apologize.
Thank you. The company has no further questions, and Mr. Summers is available for questioning from other parties or the commission.
Ms. Schmidt?
I have questions, actually. Mr. Summers, could you please restate the proposed effective date? I think I missed
Oh,
that.
I think I said November, didn't I? The proposed effective date is April 1st of 2019.
Thank you.
More carryovers from the last.
In the company's application, it discusses the effect of proposed changes on a typical GS residential customer using 80 decatherms per year. Could you please describe how the company has determined that this is a typical GS residential customer and that this is the typical GS residential customer's usage?
Yes, so the way that that typical customer is calculated or looked at is it's based on, I wouldn't say it's an average or a median. It's not an exact calculation like that. But what the company will do is we will look at what the average use is for a GS customer. But that average will change from year to year, month to month. But for consistency in comparing one application to another, we don't change it every filing. We just change. We will stick with 80, which it's close to, and we'll go with that for a while. And then once the usage drops enough that we can change it, we'll change it to, it might be 75. I know that that's something that we're going to look at in our next general rate case. But then we take that 80 decatherms and we look at how a typical customer would use that gas from throughout the year. So in January they're using more gas, in the summer they're using less gas, and so that's how that typical customer is used. So we're careful not to say an average GS customer using 80 decatherms. We just say it's a typical customer that uses 80 decatherms, and it allows us to have that comparison from filing to filing.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Ms. Clark, anything else?
No, thank you.
Ms. Schmidt?
The division would like to call Mr. Douglas Wheelwright as its witness. May he please be sworn?
Mr. Wheelwright, do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name, title, employer, and business address for the record?
My name is Douglas D. Wheelwright. I'm a technical consultant with the Division of Public Utilities. My address is 160 East, 300 South in Salt Lake City.
In connection with your employment at the division, did you prepare or cause to be prepared the division's action request response filed on March 15th, 2019 in dockets 19-05704, 19-05705, and 19-05706?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes or corrections to the division's action request response?
No.
Do you adopt the content of the division's action request response as your testimony today?
Yes, I do.
Do you have a summary?
Yes. In docket number 19057-04, known as the 191 pass-through application, it asks for commission approval for an increase of $17.4 million in the commodity component and a $4.2 million decrease in the supplier non-gas component of natural gas rates for a net increase of $13.2 million. The primary reason for the increase in the commodity cost is due to the removal of the credit amortization from the previous overcollected balance and the amortization of the current undercollected balance of $7.7 million. The decrease in the supplier non-gas portion of rates is related to a lower undercollected balance in the subsequent amortization. For the test year ending March 31st, 2020, it is anticipated that approximately 56% of the total gas requirement will be satisfied from the Wexpro cost of service production, and the remaining 44% purchased through existing and future contracts, along with spot market purchase transactions. If this docket is approved individually, a typical GS customer will see an increase in their annual bill of $9.58, or an increase of 1.58%. The division recommends that the proposed rate be approved on an interim basis until a full audit of the 191 account can be completed. The division believes that the requested changes are in the public interest and recommend the rate be approved on an interim basis with an effective date of April 1st, 2019. That concludes my summary.
Thank you. Mr. Wheelwright is now available to take questions.
Ms. Clark?
We have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wheelwright. Ms. Schmidt, anything else?
Nothing further from the division.
All right. Is there anything else before we adjourn?
We didn't do the other dockets.
Oh, I thought your testimony was light.
That was just for the first docket.
Oh,
You want to do?
pardon me. Yes, yes.
In docket number 19-05705, the Transportation Imbalance Charge, this was established to charge transportation customers for the supplier non-gas services that are being used on the company's natural gas distribution system and to improve the accuracy of transportation customers' nomination practices. The calculation of this rate is based on the methodology approved in docket number 14-057-31 and is to be adjusted with each pass-through filing and in the next general rate case. The proposed change represents an increase from 8.122 cents per decatherm to 8.323 cents per decatherm and is calculated based on the actual volumes of transportation customers for the 12 months ending January 31st, 2019. This rate applies to transportation customers that are taking service under the MT, TS, and FT1 rate schedules, and any amount collected under the rate is credited to GS customers through the 191 account. This rate does not impact all transportation customers in the same way and applies only if customers' daily nominations are outside of the plus or minus 5% daily tolerance limit. Transportation customers can minimize and possibly avoid this charge through accurate daily gas nominations. The imbalance charge has been in place since February 2016, and it does appear that the nominations for many customers have become more accurate since this rate was imposed. The division believes the requested change is in the public interest and recommends the proposed rate be approved on an interim basis until the full audit can be completed in the 191 account.
And do you have a summary of your comments on 19-05706?
Yes, docket number 19-05706, known as the Conservation Enabling Tariff. Yes. The Conservation Enabling Tariff asked for commission approval to amortize the January 2019 overcollected balance of $2.9 million. The proposed rate represents a reduction in the credit amount and that is currently included in customer rates. The division has reviewed and supports the application and the calculations as submitted by the company. If this docket were approved independently, a typical GS customer will see an increase in their annual bill of $5.11 or a 0.84% increase. The division recommends the proposed rates be approved with an effective date of April 1st, 2019. In summary, the division supports and recommends approval of the rate changes requested in all three of the dockets discussed today. The division would recommend interim approval for the 191 pass-through and the transportation imbalance charge dockets in order to allow additional time for the division to complete an audit of the individual entries in the respective accounts. The Conservation Enabling Tariff does not need interim approval. While each docket has been presented independently, the division has completed a summary of the combined impact of the proposed changes. With increases in both the pass-through and the CET, a typical GS customer will see a net increase of approximately $14.67 per year, or a 2.42% increase from the rates currently in effect. The division believes that the requested changes are in the public interest and represent just and reasonable rates. And that concludes my summary.
Mr. Wheelwright? Mr. Wheelwright is available for questions concerning the 05 and the 06 docket.
Ms. Clark, any questions regarding the latter two dockets?
No questions. Thank you.
Thanks. And Ms. Schmidt, nothing else?
Nothing else.
Thank you. Is there anything else before we adjourn? Thank you, everyone.